Epics 3. And
Yeah,
like,
I know.
I was like,
I
nah,
don't.
dude. I was like, no way.
Yeah, don't stress. But like, it's nice. Like, because I'm a video maker, when I started this podcast, I was like, I have to make this look cool. But I just got like a little. I bought it off Amazon, like just a
Yeah.
little to make some like a little bit of depth, and I've got a ring light over there. But man, good to see you. How has been since you came back from the games? Did you get some time to chill?
Yeah, dude, it's been weird. Like I mean, you were there. Like everything just happened so fast. Like at least for me, like going into the games, like it was obviously my last games with Mayhem, which was that was like weird and emotional, like in and of itself. So I'm already like emotions are high. I'm an emotional guy. I feel like as
Yeah,
creators, a lot of us are emotional, but I'm very sentimental. So I'm like, this is a special. It's a bittersweet special time for me. And then obviously what happened to the games happened. So it's just like
yeah,
the games is always this huge emotional high. Like the whole year leads up to the games. Like literally the whole season. Like even
yeah.
content that we put out is all leading towards the games. So it's this roller coaster. You're like up, 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 and then the games happen, and then you leave, and it's you just crash.
Yeah. It's like a
Um,
big high on drugs, and then is you have a big dip.
yeah,
So obviously, so it's recording now. A lot of people, some people that are gonna watch might not know you, so I'm just gonna do a little intro, and then we can start. Sounds good?
yeah.
Cool. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hard Drive Studios, a show where we highlight creators and a wide range of media people from CrossFit and the sports industry. Today I'm joined by Bennett Looper, a filmmaker you might have heard of if you follow our sports closely. He has been a junior producer and media creator for Rich Froning and CrossFit Mayhem since 2021, and one of the most talented filmmaker I know. If you haven't seen his work, I suggest you start with his latest documentary movie about Guy Malheiros on Mayhem's YouTube channel. Bennett, I'm so happy we finally get to do this. Welcome to Hard Drive Studios.
Thanks, bro. I'm glad to be here. Finally.
Yeah, man, so nice. So first of all, to talk about happy things, I just want to congratulate you on that documentary, man. It was just beautiful because I know at Mayhem you do a lot of collaborative work and a lot of documentaries every year with Scott and the whole huge team you have. But if you want to tell a little bit more about what went into that documentary, how it started, was it asked to do this from yourself, or did Rich ask, or and then yeah, the whole process.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of what we do at Mayhem is like event, or what I did at Mayhem was event based. So obviously, like kind of like I was talking about, like everything is leading to the CrossFit Games. So like from the athlete side of things, there's all these off season competitions. There's like open quarterfinals, semifinals, and so we document all of that, not just for because we put out YouTube vlogs, like like weekly stuff like that. But we kept that in mind leading up to the games, and it started like during the open. It would just be kind of like general coverage, like we're gonna shoot everybody kind of equally, and then as the season progressed, we could kind of tell, okay, this person is gonna have a cool story. This person is gonna this person, we might want to focus in and hone on them for a potential road to the games episode. Just after doing it for a while, we could kind of tell, and we would discuss as a team. And so in 2023, Guy was just coming off of a 10th place finish. So he made top 10 again. Um, and we could kind of tell something was up during that season following. He made seven. He got seventh his first year. He was not a Mayhem athlete, but he got seventh. And so, I mean, everyone was like, "Dude, this guy's the next big thing." Like
Was it his teen year?
no, it was in 2021 was his first year. No, his second year as like a individual.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and so people were like, bro, he's gonna take down Medeiros, like he's gonna be the next big thing. And then he became a Mayhem athlete. So we were like, oh shoot, like this guy's like legit. And he's ours. So we were stoked about that. And he got 10th at the games, which, you know, we were like, oh well, we weren't really expecting that. We weren't like insanely disappointed, but he was. And
Yeah.
we didn't really know that, but we could kind of tell like throughout that season of training, like, hey, like something's a little off.
Yeah.
Um, And then leading into the 2023 semifinal, we document all of the semifinals, especially in the South American region. We have, I mean, like Mayhem had so many athletes. So we're there already. And of course, Guy is a big draw for us to go down there too. And by the, he did not well on the first workout. And so, at the end of the weekend, we were kind of like hit with the realization, like, dude, he's not going to make the games. And like, we're like shocked, obviously. And like, at first it's kind of like, dang, like what do we do? We just traveled all the way down here to South America, and our biggest heavy hitter didn't make the games. But I
Yeah.
remember, and me and Scott, we had such a good like creator relationship that like we were just like instinctively on the same page. Like on the last workout, when Guy crossed the finish line and Kaike crossed the finish line, he's celebrating. It's just we kind of like, without even saying anything, we just like kind of like locked eyes and we were like, keep rolling. So we just rolled everything. And in that moment, like when there's that shot of Guy sitting on the floor, I just remember being like, yeah, we're filming this now, but like we're gonna be back. Like we're gonna be
Yeah.
back next year, and he's gonna wipe the floor. I just knew that in my
Yeah.
soul. And
Yeah.
so that next year, I kind of had in the back of my mind, like, hey, I want to tell Guy's comeback story, but as it is at Mayhem, we have so many things going on. Like there's just we're flying by the seat of our pants. But
Yeah.
around open quarterfinals, I approached Scott with the idea. I was like, hey, like I would love to do like a more of an individual story piece on Guy. And
Hmm.
normally we do like the road to the games, and we have like a bunch of different athletes at the
Yeah.
same time. We'll feature Guy and maybe Roman, or Guy and like Paige, like just well, so that it's kind of different and change of pace. But I was like, dude, I want to just hone in on this story.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about Mayhem was he was is like Scott is he was so like he was so down for whatever, he trusted us, and we it
He's
was
media director, right? For those who
yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Scott is the senior producer of Mayhem Athlete, the media
Yeah.
side of things. And he was like, yeah, he was like, run with it. And so from quarterfinals through semis, that was like my only project.
Yeah.
And looking back on it, I wish I had started earlier. There's always things that I would have done differently,
Of
but
course.
yeah, but I just filmed him, and I had a very candid conversation with Guy, um, just about like the mental side of things, because he was still, if you've watched the documentary, like it was clear, and he's very open about this. Like he was going through it, as an
Yeah.
athlete, just like mentally, like trying to get back into training. And dude, even up to almost up to semifinals, I remember having a conversation with him where I was like, "Bro, like, do you like want me to come down to Brazil with
Yeah.
you? Like, is this even something you want? Like, I just don't know where your headspace is at." And we had a very candid conversation where I was like, "Dude, like, you don't know if you're gonna win, but I'm gonna be there, and I'm gonna have a camera in your face, and I'm gonna be with you 24/7. And there's gonna be times where I'm gonna have to talk to you on camera
Yeah.
where when you don't want to talk to me." And
Yeah.
he was really cool about that. He was like, yeah, he was like, I want you down there. This is part of the story. Regardless of how it goes, like, I want the people to
Yeah.
know this.
And it's nice
Um,
that he is just a small bouncing off of what you just said. Something that people also might not know or about our jobs is that sometimes these situations are hard to navigate for us because we get so close to these athletes emotionally, but it's also our job to document their journey. And sometimes it's hard to find the gray area where you want to be there as a human being, as a friend and everything, but also you have a project or a job to do, and it's like, and you have to be in their face, and it can be challenging. So like props to
yeah.
you for like, and it's nice that he was like keen for you to go. And
Well, and it's a double edged sword, because on the one hand, that almost makes it easier, because he told me before he went down, he was like, hey, like, I'm not taking just anyone down. So I went to his hometown, Macaé, Brazil, a week
yeah.
before the competition, and he was like, "Bro, I wouldn't just take any random like media guy down there with me. I'm like taking you because we're bros and we're friends." And so like that, not only does it make them more comfortable, but it makes them want you around. It makes people like more willing to open up on camera. Like that scene where I filmed with him on the beach, like we were just walking around after one of his runs, and I just was like, hey, like let's chat, and then I just started popping questions to him, and that was
Yeah.
off the cuff. And having a relationship, and this can lead to a whole other conversation, but that's why I love having a relationship with people that I do content with, because it just makes it so much, not just easier but more meaningful. And so
Yeah.
like even when he crosses the finish line at the end of this at the end of the semifinal, like I'm getting emotional behind the camera because I'm so invested in him as a person, not just the project, but like him and his development as a human being. So that
Yeah.
makes it so much more special.
I think the movie would totally have looked different, and if anything, would have not been as good if you were not as close to Guy as you were. Um, it just transpires. It just through the whole thing that it's that you guys are close. And same for me. Like at French Throwdown at semifinals, we Linda Caseman from my gym where I train qualified. She's with TTT, and when she qualified, dude, I was like filming her, but I was shaking, bro. I had to put that stabilizer plug in on.
Well, the hotness kicks in.
Yeah, luckily I was like far enough that I could like put the stabilizer and just like zoom in and it wasn't too distorted. But bro, like you get invested into these things. It's definitely something that I want to talk about a little bit later. But so you followed him. So you already knew from 2023 that you wanted to continue what you started, and then you continued until semifinals. But why not continue? My question was, why not continue till the games and put out something after games? Obviously, we didn't know what was going to happen back then, but
Yeah, so that was a question. And I had a conversation with Guy and with Scott. I was like,
mhm,
like do we follow this through the games? And I think the first question was, okay, the whole narrative of the documentary is like being okay with placing or not making the placement like the most important thing. You know?
yeah,
But at the end of the day, like that was, if he hadn't won Copa Sur, it would have the documentary would have fallen flat a little bit. Like, let's be honest. And he even said that, like in the cut scene at the end, he was like, "Bro, the whole time I was like, I gotta win."
yeah,
Obviously, the irony is when the whole story, the whole idea was the less he put his stock in the result, the better he performed, and I do think that is true.
yeah,
But I think that was a question. Okay, he goes to the games. Do you think he's gonna do like better than he has in years past? Like, is it worth fleshing out the story if he doesn't? Maybe. If he does,
yeah,
cool. But then I think Scott and I discussed, and we were like, I think the story is just him getting to the games. Like, I think it fleshes out there. Like, he didn't make the games. He was like, let's not like. We kind of discussed about it. We were like, we don't want to like belabor the point.
yeah,
Um, Obviously in hindsight, like we had no idea what could have happened. Also, at that point, I knew that I was going to be, stepping down from Mayhem. So I was like, I couldn't even continue this if I wanted to.
yeah,
So it
yeah,
kind of worked out. But
yeah,
that was a discussion. We were like, dude, this would be sick if he like runs it back at the games and gets top five. And I guess
yeah.
we'll never know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. But it
but
worked out perfectly because I think it was a redemption story and he didn't make it the games at semifinals and the year after it ends at semifinals. It was kind of like a full circle thing. So I like the way it ended and it was fine. So to just circle back a little bit because this is a conversation so that people can get to know you a little bit. If you want to talk about your beginnings with Mayhem, and even you can even go further than that, like your relationship with just art and creating and cameras and stuff. Like how did that start?
yeah, I'll keep this concise. I love talking about this. So growing up, like I've always been creative. Like I just, even from a young age, like I was always, I thrived in like art class. Like I went to a school that encouraged, it was like kind of a liberal arts school, so it encouraged reading and writing and art, like engaging in artistic expression. Um, and so I was always fascinated by those things and thrived in those environments. Um, and I remember like, dude, even as a kid, I would like make music in GarageBand and like put it to like little videos that I would get on my like point and shoot camera. But as I got older, I think, and of course, when I approached like university, college, I, for some reason, I think, I don't know if it's a American culture thing, but like people put kind of instill in our minds of like, hey, like you're going to go to college, you're going to get a 9 to 5 job, you're going to be practical with your career, you're going to go to work, make a paycheck, and that's going to be your life until you retire. And I'm not saying that's what like my parents instilled on me, but for some reason I got it in my mind, okay, this is what I need to do for my career. I'm still creative, but you know, this is what I have to do practically. So I went to school to
Yeah.
be a physical therapist. First 3 years,
Interesting.
yeah, I went 3 years like pre PT, and I hated it, bro. Like it was
Oh,
so bad.
really?
Yeah, like I had a strength and conditioning minor. I mean, it was cool. Like I learned a lot, and I
Yeah.
love fitness, so it was cool. But man, by my junior year, I was like, dude, I do not see myself doing this for the rest of my life. And
Yeah.
throughout that time, I was still dabbling in like creative stuff. And I remember my junior year of college, I remember calling my dad and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I have to do something creative. And I switched my major to random like journalism or something like that. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Um, but one of my classes was a creative media class and it required me to use a camera. So I bought like
Yeah.
a little Canon Rebel and I just started shooting for fun. Like I was just like I found myself just like taking videos of like my friends in college. Like we went on a beach trip and I was taking videos and I just dude, I just loved it. And they were terrible.
Yeah.
But and then COVID hit and I just started I spent literally all day when I was supposed to be doing school. I would just learn how to edit in Premiere Pro, how to match cut, how to color grade, like simple stuff like that, and I just fell in love with it. And then
Were
I
you
started
already doing CrossFit back then? Sorry.
no, so I being in the fitness industry, like with my major, like obviously I knew CrossFit. Like I was
Yeah.
just doing like bodybuilding style training. I knew about CrossFit. I knew about Rich Froning. I knew about Mayhem, um, and I watched some of the like the old documentaries. But then I started, shooting some more. Like I started. I love fitness. I'll always love fitness. So I started doing some like videos of me and my friends working out in the garage. And at this time, I was following Carlos Bound.
Yeah.
As people probably know him as Bound Media, and
Shout
he's from
out.
yeah. Shout out Carlos. So he's from Pensacola, Florida, where I grew up, and
Oh,
he got a bunch of local competitions. And I remember reaching out to him, and I was like, "Hey, like I really like your work. How did you get like started shooting CrossFit? I'm interested in shooting CrossFit." And literally nothing. He was like, "Bro, come be my second shooter for this competition." It was
was it
beach
beach
brawl.
brawl?
Yeah, beach
Yeah.
brawl in Florida. And I was like, I just remember freaking out, bro. I was like, "What? Of course!" And it was unpaid. It was just for experience. And so I went down there to shoot that competition with him, just photos.
Was
And
he
we ended.
already media director?
So at that time, it was just him. It
Yeah.
was
Okay.
just
Okay.
him shooting photos. Yeah. So he was
Yeah.
media director.
Yeah.
And so it was just me and him on photo, and we just clicked immediately, and like we were just homies. And so he started hiring me for like local competitions. I would travel to like Louisiana, and like there were a couple other ones that I did with him. And he just kind of like mentored me and kind of like taught me like the basics, um, and so at that point I kind of built like a repertoire of like some CrossFit photos and like not really any video. And then I
That's
remember I
funny. I didn't know
yeah,
you started doing photo, bro.
yeah.
Knowing like seeing you every year with a big rig and everything, I was like, oh, okay.
I don't know why. I just like I knew I wanted to do video, but I think a lot of videographers and filmmakers start honestly, I think it's good to start with stills because you learn like the basics of composition, you learn how to frame things and stuff like that.
I did the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, bro. I didn't know how to take pictures until like a year ago. But yeah, moving on.
That is so funny. Um, yeah, so that was cool. It was like a foundation for me. And then
Yeah.
I remember uh it was like March or about March, and I graduated college in May. And I was like,
Hmm.
bro, I like don't have a job lined up. I was kind of freaking out. I was like, I'm not ready to freelance. I knew I
Yeah.
wanted to freelance eventually, but I was not ready. And
Were you living at your parents' house or on your own or?
no, I was still living in Birmingham with like my roommates. We had like a
Okay.
house. Um, and so like I was about to graduate college, and
Oh yeah.
I uh, I just remember being like, dude, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. And so one of my mutual friends in Birmingham knew Jen Parker, Jen Fruitaker at the time. She
Hmm.
ran CrossFit Mayhem's or Mayhem Athletes social media,
Yeah.
and she reached out to me via Instagram and was like, "Hey, we have an opening for uh, a videographer position at Mayhem Athlete. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Ain't no way, bro." I was like,
Oh shit.
"I am not qualified for this." And a couple of my friends sent me like the Instagram posting, and they're like, "Bro, you should apply." And I was like, "Bro, are you kidding me? Rich Froning, Mayhem Athlete? Like, I watched the Froning documentary. Like, no way, I'm like qualified for this."
Yeah.
So I remember, I don't know if you know Sydney Smith. She's she was on the
Uh,
11th team that made the games this year.
the demo team, the young
No, she's not
girl.
on the team, but she was on the one of our Mayhem teams. Keep an eye out for
Okay.
her. Um,
Okay.
but she was one of my good friends at Stanford where I went to school, and she had just
Oh.
started CrossFit. And so I literally called her and I was like, "Yo," I was like, "We're gonna make a video," and because I got to send something to Mayhem because I had no video work, and she was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, bet, I'll do it." So I made a video with her. It was, looking back on it, it was terrible, but it was good for me at the time,
Yeah.
and I sent it to Mayhem. They were like, "Oh, this is cool. You want to come out for a visit?" And so I visited Mayhem. It was in like late March. I kind of shot like a training camp weekend with them, and then they offered me the job that weekend, and I accepted on the spot. So I
Sick.
graduated in May, and then a week later, I moved up to Cookville, and then that was that.
What was like the description, the position description? Like what was the?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's funny. So it was. God, I forget what the description was. It was like,
Because they must have told you like, hey, that's what you're gonna do. Like you know
well,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like
So
what the
when
tasks.
they when I got hired, they told me, they were like, "Hey, this is like not really a creative position." They were like, "This is, we need someone." I forget the actual description, but it was basically someone to create videos for the SugarWOD app, which is where all the workouts were posted, and it was just simple
Okay.
workout demos, workout descriptions. They were like, "We think you're great." Like, but this is not really a creative position. Maybe down the road you can get into more of a creative position. And I remember in
Mhm.
my head, I was like, "That's cool." I was like, "But I'm gonna be creative." Like, it was
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, exactly.
challenge. I was like, "All right, we'll start out with this, but like I'll show them that I can, do creative stuff." And that's kind
Yeah,
of what happened. Like, I within the first, like 6 months, like I would go to the competitions and like shoot stuff with them. And I think
yeah.
Scott pretty quickly was like, "Hey, like this guy, like he can do like creative stuff." And I made that video on Seth Stovall, that guy with the van. I don't know if you've seen
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah,
I
and I,
remember that.
I made that just like on a weekend with Seth, and I think when he saw that, he was like, "Oh, this is good." And then I started getting looped in on creative projects, and it kind of went from there.
Sick. That's funny because most of the creator friends that I have talked to, they went through like you're the only one that went through like this process of like straight fresh out of school, like going into this. And most of the guys I've talked to actually started doing like other jobs first, and then found photography because they were doing like CrossFit and they wanted to shoot their friends for fun or whatever. Um, and then one of the things I talk a lot about is the grind culture.
Mm.
Is it necessary? I see many creators, myself included, when I started like killing themselves to climb the ladder, barely sleeping, not working out as often as they wish, eating bad during events and stuff like that. But that's like the freelancer like life and everything. But do you want to talk a little bit about and it's not to talk about, it's to talk about like good things, but just in general your experience at Mayhem, like what it taught you, the lessons you learned from it and everything.
Yeah, dude, for sure. That grind culture is real, and like I know it's especially real in the freelance world. Like, I think you get what you put into like your career. Like, you can choose to not, kill yourself, and you might not be as successful. I'm very much of the mind of like, hey, like I'm gonna keep my sanity and I'm gonna keep my well being. Like, that's always gonna be a priority for me. And if it's at the expense of, some success, like I'm okay with that. And I know that I will experience success with balance in my life. Not that there won't be times where I am not grinding and like, dude, I love that. grind where you're like staying up till like 2 a.m., like, filming 3 days straight. Like that's good.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Mayhem, I experienced that at Mayhem for sure. And I think Mayhem is so unique where, first of all, I have nothing but good things to say about Mayhem. Like
Yeah.
like Mayhem is formative into where I am today. Like I tell people this, I truly am the creator I am today because of Mayhem.
Yeah.
There's just things that you like have to learn by doing, and whether that's like how to vlog, how to conduct an interview, how to edit a long form project, how to compile footage and tell a story. Like that's stuff that I could have learned on my own, but being thrown into the wolves and put in that opportunity where I was like able to learn from Scott, from Ben, from Frank, like that was I kind of like expedited the process. Like it just kind of
Yeah.
sped it up for me. And that was so valuable. Like I learned different things from each of the media members, and I told them this on my way out. Like it was so valuable. But that grind culture was real at Mayhem. I mean, I think just the nature of the business, not just the fitness industry or the CrossFit space, but media is, I mean, especially these days, media is everything, and speed is the name of the game. So, yeah, we found ourselves there are several times, especially around the season, where we were in the office till midnight or 1 a.m. Like, and I could do it because I was single young guy for most of my time at Mayhem, and Ben and Scott had wives and children, and Ben's case. But yeah, it was prevalent for sure, and I think I had to get to a point where I think some people have more bandwidth than others. Not to say like I'm soft, but like I could tell, okay, you know, maybe Scott's staying at the office until 11 p.m. tonight. I can't do that. I'm like, I can't do that multiple nights in a row. And like, I find I work better when I have balance, and that just
Yeah.
works for me. And so, like, I would, when I first started, I felt this pressure, like, dude, I gotta match everyone's grind. Like,
Yeah.
I gotta work harder. Ben stays until 10:30. I gotta stay till midnight.
Yeah.
But as the years went on, I was like, no, dude, like I'm gonna get done what I need to get done,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna have balance in my life, and that's something that I've really tried to stick to.
Yeah.
And I think as I move into freelance, that's something that I'm gonna have to hold myself to because I can tell that
For sure.
pressure's already there. So
Yeah, for sure. Starting as a freelancer straight away for me, the thing is like, um, even though you still had to work very hard and you worked very hard and everything, you were surrounded by a team. You were hired almost like full time by Mayhem, and you had like an office set up and all that stuff. Like you had a structure that I didn't have and a lot of people didn't have. So the thing is like our grind was not, you know, worse than yours or better or whatever. It's just different because you kind of have to like, you don't have the platform yet. So you have to make a name for yourself, and the grind that I talk about with other creators is just like, starting by doing a lot of work for free, and then like doing a lot of work for like, but not a lot of money. And then, and being at events, and like you've got these people who said like, okay, we've got 17 athletes and you have to make 3 reels per day per athletes and everything. And it's like, and we have 500 euros to give you.
you're like, what?
$500. And it's like, and at first, like when you start, you're like, at first you're excited. You're like, holy shit, they're giving me money for this. Of course, like, I'm not going to pretend I was like, oh, fuck it, guys. No, no, no. I was like excited at first, like the first years. And then I'm talking about this as if I've been filming CrossFit for 10 years. I haven't. It's only started in 2022, but I have been doing media for 9 years. And so I was really happy at first, but then you kind of had to learn that just for your mental and physical health, that yeah, dude, like it's okay for a weekend to like do it a few times, to like sleep 3 hours per night and like deliver and like stuff like that. But then I started like realizing that the mass editing side of things just made my content not as good, and the quality of what I could provide not as good. And now that I've went through the grind, and now I'm in a position where I've got people who trust me, clients who trust me and everything, I'm more like quality over quantity. And I'm like, hey guys, you know how well and how good my work can look like. If you want it to look that good, then I cannot mass edit and like, and do all that stuff. So
I
Super
agree. I
grateful to
mean,
the people that
yeah, it's funny you say it because you have to like it really shifts your perspective. You have to ask your why. Like, why do I do this? I mean, and it may be different from other people, but for me, it's because it's fun. You know, like
yeah
I started doing
yeah
this because I enjoyed it. And when obviously there are times where you're not going to enjoy, there are aspects of every job that you're not going to enjoy.
of
But
course
but at the end of the day, if you're not getting enjoyment from it, like what's the point? And like
yeah
I that's just my personal philosophy. I love telling stories. I love documenting life. I love being creative. And when that's gone, when that's stripped away from me, it's very, very hard for me to power through. Not to say that there aren't
yeah
times where I do that, but if I see myself getting to that point where I'm like, ooh, like this ain't it, I need to
yeah
take a step back, reevaluate, okay, why am I doing that? And when I do take a step back, I find myself, okay, reaching for my camera again, just like kind of itching to create. And
yeah
that's when I know like this is the right career path for me.
yeah
But sometimes
when
you need
you
to take those times to have balance.
yeah yeah. So, other than the grind culture, are there in general just like some mistakes you've done with your creative process, or just shooting at events or stuff like that that you've learned from, and now you're like, yeah, I'm doing that again,
Yeah,
and that
for
made
sure.
you a better creator?
Yeah. I think first and foremost was just like practical, like just nailing the basics. Like
Yeah,
I think I was pretty good about like how do I operate a camera? Okay, I'm gonna follow the 180-degree shutter rule. Like I'm gonna learn the basics of exposure. But I mean, I remember even like through my 3 years, there were practical things about like my camera, like just practical things where I was so itching to just create. I just wanted to get out there and shoot. And
yeah,
like that's my forte. Like I'm not like a gearhead. Like I don't geek out about gear. I
yeah,
think it's cool, like, but
yeah,
I'm not gonna like freak out about. I'm not gonna look at this, freak out about vector scopes and like and stuff like that. But you need to know that stuff, and
yeah,
I think at the beginning, at the outset, I kind of pushed that stuff to the side. I was like, "Oh, it looks good in camera. He'll be fine." But then started like getting my footage back, and I'd be like, "Damn, this is overexposed as hell." Like
yeah,
I had to like go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, how do I learn how to use my equipment practically? And I think I mean, that's a good place to start. In terms
yeah.
of like other things, um, I think I don't know.
Just the
I
way
think
you, for example, the way you approach athletes. I know like a lot of the mistakes I've done is like the timing, when to approach athletes, how to approach them, all that stuff. Like, and you're like, oh fuck, and then you learn from it.
yeah, I think for me, yeah, you're right with that. Like I think I am not naturally an extrovert. I think
Hmm.
I know it's a surprise to some people, but I'm not naturally someone that will go up to someone and talk to them. I can and I have those, but I think gaining I've gained a lot of confidence over the last 3 years. And I think it's multifaceted. I think as soon as you have a camera in your hand, like that you sometimes get up there's like an element of self-consciousness, like people are
Yeah,
watching me, people uh are caring what I'm doing. They think I'm an idiot, they think I'm cringy, and this more applies when I'm filming myself. But
yeah,
I had to get to a point where I'm like, dude, no one gives a fuck, dude. Like no one cares about what you're doing. They may look at you for 3 seconds and be like, whatever. So there's an element of that. And then two, I remember there's so many times where I go up to athletes. I remember one time at semifinals last year, Luke, I went up to him with the camera and he was like, Luke Parker, he was getting
yeah,
ready
yeah,
for, and he was like, no, he was like, don't talk to me, not right now. He's like, "Get that thing out of my face." And that has happened to me so many times. But when I've had the confidence to be like, screw it, this is uncomfortable, I'm just gonna do it. I've gotten so many good like moments. Like in the Guy documentary when Guy bombed the workout in quarterfinals. You think I wanted to follow him outside and like film him crying and like no, but that was
yeah,
like I was like, you know what? I'm confident in my storytelling abilities. I'm confident in my presence as a creator. I'm gonna do this.
yeah,
I think it's just cultivating that confidence. And it's not like I wish I would have cultivated it earlier. It's not really like a looking back on it, wishing I had done it, but it's just something that when I look back, that's how I've changed. I was
yeah,
more meek. I was more timid, but that's just part of learning. I had to
Yeah.
go through the trial and errors. I had to go through the awkward phases of putting a camera in someone's face and not really knowing what to say, and that's really
Yeah.
awkward. But that's part of it, you know.
So something I'm really curious about, and actually I haven't asked a lot because some athletes are they don't want to gatekeep, but it's sometimes hard to talk about your creative process and how you actually do these things. So talking about the documentary, but not just documentary in general. If you want to talk about your creative process, you can use the documentary as an example. Like when you're shooting, do you already think about the editing part, or do you just shoot as much as you can, and then when you have the shot in your editing software, then you start to be creative. Like, what's your process like? Because everybody's different.
Yeah, I think it's multifaceted for sure. There's so many elements at play. The first element is just pure documentation. Like I'm just gonna film what's happening. So like in an event, it's easier. This is where it's kind of more apparent. You know, I'm
Yeah,
going to document the event, how it goes down. Obviously, I'm going to use the basics of composition, the basics of filmmaking to make it look good, how I frame the subject, but I'm just going to document what goes down, ask questions pertaining to what's at hand, maybe some questions pertaining to, you know, previous events that affect what's going on currently. And then I can kind of go back to the drawing board, you know, after in post and be like, okay, he said this. What can I ask him next time to
hmm,
continue this story? Or maybe I can fake a scene to you know purvey the story, like the scene when Guy in the Guy documentary when he's rowing in his garage.
yeah,
Like that was
yeah,
not like we staged that, you know, but that worked perfectly because he was kind of like alone in his garage with his thoughts, with you know people's opinions chirping in the background. Like we that was something where I was like, hey, we're gonna stage this, but it's gonna work well with the story. Same thing with the shot of him in the opening when he's leaning down on the competition floor, and then it
oh yeah,
switches
at
to
the
him
beach.
at his hometown. That was also planned. So it's just
Yeah,
mixing in little elements like that.
yeah,
Um, and then I think this one too is very simple, but dude, I listen to a ton of music. Like
yeah,
I've always loved music. I grew up playing several instruments, and music is so like vital to my creative process. And I will just
yeah,
find myself, whether it's on Spotify or like Music Bed. I know like some people use Artlist or you know
yeah,
Epidemic Sounds, or I use Music Bed and lens distortions, and I'll just listen to tracks and just kind of
yeah,
imagine things unfolding to certain tracks. And that honestly, I think that's the biggest thing that helps me is I want to
yeah. So
purvey a
using
certain.
the music as a base.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Okay,
obviously all
interesting.
the other stuff, but sometimes I'll just look up cinematic ambient, and I'll just listen to it and kinda just
Okay.
imagine things, and just
Yeah,
let my imagination run amok. Or I'll do that with sound effects, like, I'll go on Lens Distortions, the sound effects library that I use, and I'll just throw a bunch of sound effects together on a timeline and, like, you know, could just kinda ruminate those sound effects. It works for me.
yeah.
It's kinda weird, but it works for me.
Yeah, it's something that I love, that what you started doing a little bit more in the past year or so. And if you want to talk about that transition of like starting to film yourself more, because there's two schools, right? There's two types of creators. There's the creators that, and both are fine, that are trying to stay in the dark, that just want to be faceless, that just are about delivering the content to the client, and they don't necessarily need to put themselves forward or to tell any more stories than what the work that they do. And then you've got people who are maybe a bit more like you, me, or Carlos, who don't mind putting themselves a little bit forward and sharing a little bit of that. What made you want to post more about yourself on your Instagram page and start all this new process that you've had?
Mhm. I think for several reasons. The first is I've always I've always liked content of myself. Like even on Instagram, like I'm always I don't know, I don't think it's vanity. I think I just like telling my life story, I think,
Yeah,
and I just am always someone that is gonna post about myself because it's my social media and
yeah,
people are
yeah,
following me for me, and so I'm gonna post about me. But I think it kind of clicked when I realized I had a well, okay, so this is how it started. So working full time for a business,
Hmm.
you're very limited in the content you can post for obvious reasons. You're creating content for that business. They have creative control over that content. And so when it came to me posting the work that I was doing for Mayhem, there were some obvious limitations.
Yeah.
Like I can't just go up and make a hype reel out of the footage that I get from the CrossFit games, because then Mayhem is like, okay, why wouldn't you make it for us? Like it's
Yeah, yeah,
obvious.
yeah, of course.
And so I wanted to post more creative things on my social media, but I was limited with what I could do with my work. And so I kind of came to this crossroads where I was like, well, I want to stretch myself more creatively, and I want to just do other things. And I was like, I also just want to practice. Like just want to practice my creative skills and other things. And I was like, bro, I'm just gonna film myself. Like
Yeah.
that's literally how it started. I was like, I want to practice lighting. I want to practice more because I did have those opportunities, every once in a while with Mayhem when we would do like a commercial or advertisement. But I was like, I want to practice cinematography. I want to
Yeah.
practice like I just want to get better. And
Yeah.
so I remember one day I was like, I'm just going to film myself. And it started
Yeah.
slowly. And then I was really enjoying it. And then it gained traction and people loved it on social media. And I was like, well, okay, well, I'm going to keep doing this. And then
Yeah.
people were asking, hey, how are you lighting this? How are you doing this? How are you framing your shot? And I was like, well, I'm going to start telling people. So that's when I
Yeah.
started doing some informative content. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And then I started growing on social
Yeah.
media. And then like I remember one of my coworkers Ben asked me, he was like, why do you film yourself? Like why? And I was like, well, first of all, I just like it. It's
Yeah.
fun. It's fun to film myself, but also I like to document life. And even if that's my own life,
Yeah.
as creators, we're telling everyone else's stories. Like we have a story too. Why wouldn't we tell our
Exactly.
story on our social media? And I think not only is it a display of our skills and our work as a creator, if we can make our content look good, that means we can make other people's content look
Yeah.
good.
Can be a great portfolio.
Exactly. And it's also just telling our life story,
Yeah.
even if that's simple.
Yeah.
So those are the main reasons I started.
Yeah, I've had these conversations with a few creators, and the thing is, in our industry, sometimes you can forget yourself. You can forget yourself because you have to kind of be selfless when you have to shoot all these athletes and tell their story. You have to put yourself out of the equation, and you're working for a client, you're paid to do a job. And sometimes I've had moments of, I'm just a cameraman. I wasn't thinking of myself about as like a creator, a videographer, sometimes as part of a team or whatever. Sometimes I started thinking like, you get those intrusive, like toxic thoughts of like, oh yeah, but I'm just a camera guy, like nobody really cares, right? And you start like forgetting yourself and you're like, I'm just here to do a job. And then, you remember that you like to tell stories and then you're passionate about creating content and everything. And I don't think there's anything wrong about like sharing your own story. And I remember the first reel I saw, you were doing some eco bike or something with the big garage door open and it was just your silhouette
Hmm.
at the gym. And I mean, and those shots were like really cool and cinematic. I like the way you shoot. I like sometimes when you center things, like really centered, which reminds me a lot of Wes Anderson.
Hmm.
I don't know if you know his movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love like the really centered shots. Like I have OCD, so I'm always like very. Sometimes I have to like give up
I
that
always
OCD.
follow that rule of thirds, bro. Always,
Yeah, I know, but sometimes like you get some shots where it's like the shot and it's just small on the side, and it just makes it. Like I've had in Berlin, I did a few shots because I was just in the spectator seats, and I was just so far away. But sometimes it just gave some perspective of that this small athlete and the huge arena above that athlete.
Yeah, I love that.
Um,
Someone who does that
you know,
well is Carly
yeah,
Creator. Like I really like the way that she'll like frame or crop her photos, and I've drawn inspiration from her too, even in some of my
yeah,
photo stuff.
yeah.
But
Actually, she was supposed to come on Wednesday when I came back from the games. So she was keen to come on, but with all the events that happened, I didn't feel like recording just yet.
yeah,
And she also told me like, yeah, I think it's a good idea to postpone, but she's gonna be on the show as well. I just love what she does,
that's sick.
um, and that she does other stuff as well. And the pictures she takes of Seabum is just so cool.
So good, dude. Yeah,
I
I
think.
think. Go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
Well, I think what you were saying about like yourself and like creating content of yourself, like I feel like people want to work with individuals that they like, you know. And I remember you and I had this conversation at the games where I was like, bro, people know Marius, like they know you, like Truth Films, when they see you, you're like, oh, dude, he's the guy in the jeans and the boots and like tatted, like they know you for you. And I think I'll always know you as the guy that was shirtless shooting under the bridge. But no, I mean, and people hire you, and people want to work with people that they like, and
Bro, sorry. I just remembered this conversation we had at the track at the games, and I was
I'm
like,
so
bro, I'm this close from taking my shirt off.
dude, I was right there with you, bro. I was
and
right
I
there.
said, bro, is it douchey if I take my shirt off right now? And you were like, yeah, dude.
I said, hell yeah, it is, dude. But I don't blame you. I said, but that's you.
Bro, it was so fucking humid there. I don't know if they're
So
gonna do it into Texas again, but anyway. But yeah, I think showing more of yourself helps people get to know you a little bit better, and it helps also the athletes be more comfortable around you.
mhm, for
Um,
sure.
so talking about a little bit about the future now, what is like a out of comfort zone? First of all, what led you to choose to go freelance? What was the decision process?
Well, I always knew I wanted to go freelance. Even like before I got the job at Mayhem, I always knew I wanted to own my own business and centered around me. I wanted to build a brand around Bennett Looper. And
Hmm.
so I just needed experience. I was not ready coming out of college. I didn't have the experience. I could have done it, but it would have been a grind, you know, and it's still going to be a
Yeah.
grind. But I needed real world experience, and so I remember I got the job at Mayhem. The idea of moving to Cookeville, Tennessee didn't fire me up, but I was like, I'm going to take this opportunity. I don't know how long I'm going to be here, but I'm going to go full send on this. And like, this is an amazing opportunity, by the way, to work in the fitness industry where I wanted to work with a famous CrossFit athlete that, you know, is known worldwide. And so I just went full send on it. It was seriously the opportunity of a lifetime, dude. I got to go to like 10 different countries. I was like traveling all over the place. I have friends all over the world. I mean, I think I met you in Germany.
Yeah, yeah,
But
bro. Like you had just gone through another semifinal, then ours, then you had another one, bro. You were
yeah,
like burning the candles on both sides.
I was. But leading to that, yeah, I loved the opportunities that I had, like being able to travel, being able to like shoot in the fitness industry. But man, I just got to a point where I just wanted to do more things. And I always knew that I wanted to do more than just CrossFit.
Hmm.
And so I think it was after the 2022 games. It was no, 2023. It was after that season where I went to every single semifinal. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't think I can do this much longer. I was like,
Yeah,
for sure I was burned out, but I think also I just wanted the opportunity to not just like financially to grow, but like creatively. I was like, I just want to do more things. And I was candid with the people at Mayhem. Like I wasn't trying to hide this, and I wanted to
yeah,
try to make it work. But I think as a business, you know, they need someone that's going to be all in, and
of course.
I just wasn't all in. And I think in the last year, I've made those efforts to grow my platform on social media, and leading into this season, I kind of, you know, did my best to, you know, be 100%.
Hmm.
But, you know, leading up to the games, I just had a candid conversation. I was like, I think I'm ready. There's no perfect time to take action, but I was like, I think that if I don't do it now, I never will. I always want to stay in the CrossFit space. It's very near and dear to my heart. The community is like nothing else, especially Mayhem. They are a family to me. It's where I really got my roots, and
Yeah,
I will always view them as family. But you know, I knew this day would come. It's like it's
yeah,
not
of
like a
course.
surprise to me. Um, but there's no hard feelings. Like where we all
Yeah, of
love each
course,
other.
of course.
But that was kind of the motivation. I just kind of wanted to do more outside of CrossFit, and I wanted to kind of
Yeah,
grow my brand. So
yeah. So I want to talk a little bit more about what do you have planned in the future, but also I want to talk just a little bit. I don't want to make it the whole thing, but I don't want to act like it didn't happen. So obviously the events at the games, the passing of Lazar Dukic, who was with Mayhem for the majority of his professional career. How was what were the conversation with the Mayhem team? Because was he? It was not with Mayhem that this year, right?
Mm-mm.
But how, like, what memories did you have of him? I don't know your relationship to him. I know you went to all those semifinals and you were filming him last year in Germany. If you just want to talk a little bit, just to pay homage to him, because I think it's important to not, like, act like it didn't happen.
Yeah, there in my time at Mayhem, there were very. I was friends with most of the like all the athletes. There were very few athletes where I had like a relationship with them, like a deeper relationship with them off camera, where they were just genuine friends. They were all my friends, but there were a select few where I really connected with, and they connected with me. And Lazar was one of those people. Like
Yeah.
we, every time he would come to Cookville, we would go out to eat, or like I went to church with him one time. Like he was just like such a chill dude to hang out with, and we just kind of clicked immediately. He's funny. Like we had similar humor. And I met him when he became a Mayhem athlete at the Rogue Invitational in 2021,
Hmm.
2022, I think maybe. Um, and then all the international events, Mayhem sent me on almost all of the overseas events. Again,
Yeah.
young, single, I can do it. No family.
Send him.
Yeah. So whenever there was a competition with Lazar, like I was there,
Yeah.
like Dubai, semifinals, Madrid. Um, and so I was the one with a camera in his face. And then at those competitions, he was primarily our only Mayhem athlete. So even after hours, like I'm in Berlin, like I'm hanging out with them at his house, like I'm just spending time with him. So it was similar to a Gee situation where like we were just friends, and then
Yeah.
I would document his CrossFit journey with Mayhem.
Yeah.
And so and when he decided to switch camps, like I was one of the first people he told. Like it was in Dubai, and he was like, "Hey, like I'm not going to be a Mayhem athlete anymore. Like thank you for
Yeah.
everything."
Yeah.
And that was emotional, even though I knew I understood the decision. I understood it.
Yeah.
And so leading into the games, like I saw him at check-in, and it was kind of like a cool reunion. I talked to Anya. Um, and when everything happened, it was just weird. It just I
Yeah.
mean, you were there, you were at the lake. It was one of I've had
Yeah.
several tragedies in my family where it's just like you just don't even believe. It's like the initial
Yeah.
stage is shock.
Yeah.
Um, and so it
Yeah,
was
for
that.
sure.
Go ahead.
It was just, I think nobody was equipped to process what happened, whatever, no matter how close or far you were from him. I don't think anybody have dealt also with people passing in my family. And I think in the moment like this, especially like so much exposed around media and such a big event like this, you can't process it. Like all
Mhm.
the athletes, whether they continued, whether they stopped, like you just lost a comrade, you just lost a competitor. And like I think now people can start grieving and like going through the process and honoring him and and going through it. But I think it's, I think everybody should be forgiven for whatever decision they took in that moment, because you cannot, I chose to keep shooting,
Mhm.
um because for me it was my way of just keeping doing the thing that I love. And he always used to comment on some of my edits and like say how cool he found them on the comments. And um I don't want to talk too long about this. Just a little
Yeah.
parenthesis, just to give a tribute to this dude, because same to me, he was always super sweet. Like I knew him. He wasn't a friend personally, but I knew him through Josie. So whenever I would see Josie in Dubai or in Madrid in the events that are outside the US, I would go, like I would like come and say hi to Josie, and obviously Lazar was very often there with Anya and everything, and he was just the sweetest dude and always like cracking jokes. And I think yeah, he was just a great guy. And I think yeah, I just hope the sport will go into a nice direction. And talking about the future now, will you still be doing CrossFit related stuff, or what are you excited about that what's coming next?
Yeah, dude, there's a lot coming next. I think for me, I think
Sick.
yes, I always want to be involved in CrossFit. Like I want to shoot the major competitions. Like I'd love to shoot Rogue. Like I've developed relationships in this sport that I don't think will just die, and like I think it'll look different. Like it's going to look different than how I would, create content for Mayhem. It's not going to be on a day-to-day, basis. But the thing is like there's no boundaries. So it can really be whatever I make it. It could be with athletes that are not with Mayhem. It could be with other Mayhem athletes that I have a relationship with. I just don't know. But I do always want to be involved in the sport,
Hmm.
regardless of what that will look like in the future. But aside from that, I just, it's funny. I'm starting a YouTube channel. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, which is a long time coming. I'm just doing things now that I just didn't have the time or bandwidth to do previously.
Yeah.
Um, and that's the truth about having a full time job. There are only so many hours in a day, and Mayhem was, in a good way, all consuming.
Yeah.
Weekends, long days, obviously great. But now I'm just like doing things that A, I want to do, and B, that I think will further me as a creator.
Yeah.
So YouTube, I'm doing that full send. I'm a long form content guy. I'm excited about that.
Sick. Is
Um,
your channel up yet?
no, I got
Okay.
the
If
first
if it
video
was, I
up.
would have put the link
Yeah. So it's
in the
probably a little
description.
preemptive announcement, but yeah, I'm excited about that. People have been asking about that for a while, but I think in terms of clientele, man, I don't want to limit myself, but I also don't want to spread myself too thin because I know that can happen easily. I want to stay in fitness and sports. That's my passion. That's always been my passion.
Yeah.
I want to branch out a little bit into other things, but I think staying in that niche requires me to do some, like you mentioned before, I think the hard truth about freelancing is we have to be our own advocate. So I think even someone like me who's been in the fitness industry, like people know who I am, but hey, I still got to reach out to people. I still got to, contact brands and say, hey, like, let me be your guy. Like, let me show you
Yeah.
what I got.
Cold messaging.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's an element of that that's happened already.
Do you have some
But
stuff lined up, some gigs that you can talk about, or not yet?
there are some things in the work. I don't want to like come
That's
down
fine
on
if you
them
can't.
yet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I think I'm excited about like the next few months and how they unravel. I think also as a freelancer, I'm finding patience
Yeah.
is key. Patience is key. You can only do so much, and not that I expected people to be banging down my door, but that's just not the reality. Like I know people want to work with me, but
Hmm.
there is an element of like, okay, there's a little bit of a lull. I know like I've reached out, I've have potential gigs lined up. I have some gigs lined up.
Okay,
It's
good.
gonna be okay, like it's gonna be
Yeah,
okay. And taking this time, like it's only been a week since the CrossFit Games. Taking this
of
time and this
course.
role to kind of regroup. I just moved to a new state, like taking this time to reevaluate and kind of reset.
Where'd you
Um,
move?
so I moved back home to Birmingham.
Okay.
Um,
That's where
yeah,
the Masters is happening, right?
yeah. So I'm gonna shoot the Masters competition next week.
Oh, sick.
That's my last gig with Mayhem. So it worked out well.
Okay. Yeah, nice. So you just drive out the house and
Oh yeah. It's like I think it's like 20 minutes from my house. Um,
yeah.
so that'll be cool. And Birmingham is great. It's like 2 hours from Nashville. It's like a good
What made you
central.
move?
My family lives here. I have friends here.
Oh,
It's where I went to school, and
okay.
I still have a ton of connections here. So that was another thing. I
Yeah.
wanted to move to Nashville. I think that's eventually where I want to end up, but it just made sense for me to come back to a place that was like familiar, and then I had like potential business here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because you're throwing yourself into the deep end in a new journey as a freelancer in something that is going to be a little bit more unstable. So obviously the safer and the more comfortable you can make yourself where you live and who you're surrounded with, I think is the best choice. So, yeah,
yeah,
totally understand that.
for sure.
Nice, dude. Well, I still hope I'll see you at some events. It's not completely sure yet, but by the time this podcast come out, it's probably going to be sure that I'll be at Rogue.
Let's go, dude.
So I'm excited. It's closer to home now, so
That's true. That's
Um,
true.
yeah, so it's in the works, but probably and hopefully working for Brian Friend again for Be Friendly
Nice.
Fitness. Do you know if you're going or?
Don't know yet. I don't, and I don't want to speak too soon. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would
yeah.
love to be there, and I know there are some potential ways that I'll get there, but that
Will you be at SoCal?
not as of right now. No.
No? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it looks really cool, but also I realized that a lot of big part of it is the community events, but like the main elite athlete is like two big teams and that's it. So if you that's like I think a little bit less opportunity for like creators unless you live close by
Yeah.
to go and shoot that because it's just like a big fun event. But it looks cool though. Like I'm
I'd be
excited
interested to
to
see how this Wadapalooza does.
yeah.
Shooting the one in Miami is not fun.
Bro, but I told that to Josie as well. Like Miami is like a love hate relationship
Exactly.
because no matter how shitty the weather is, no matter how weird the access is, and I always say props to Sasha. It must be so hard to fucking deal with all that.
Oh
She's
yeah.
great. Shout out Sasha. I still fucking have a fun time, man, when I'm there.
There
It's
there are
just
elements of it that I really enjoy, and then there are times like when it's pouring down rain and my brand new Nike Blazers are like covered in mud. I'm like, dude, I'm never coming back. And then I always come back.
yeah, but it's just like embrace the suck, and you just like all of us are with the raincoats, and I always that's where I met Carlos. I was at Tina
Okay.
Hill, like looking at. Actually, Carlos is the one who inspired me with this podcast, and he knows that he's going to be on the show as well with his show, The Content Lab, and that's the first thing. That's how I discovered Carlos, not as a creator, but because of Content Lab.
Really?
So, yeah, dude, like I didn't know a lot about his work in the CrossFit, but I was just like I follow a lot of content related YouTube channels. I don't look as much now, but like Matt Como, Sam Calder,
Yeah.
all these guys, like I learned a lot from them, and I was like fuck, what's his name? I forgot his name. Anyway, and so I just saw one of the episodes with Carlos. I don't know if it was with Josie or someone else, or I don't know. At the time, he was like posting a lot. Anyway, went to Wadapalooza. That was my first big elite event, and I was at Tina Hill, and we were just waiting for the event to start. And he was just sitting next to me, and I was like, "Hey, dude, fucking love what you do on the Content Lab and everything." And we just started to have a conversation, and yeah, it started from there.
That's cool. I know
Um,
he was stoked to hear that. Like just for, that you finding him from his podcast.
Yeah, exactly, right? And now I'm super grateful that a lot of people have been tuning in and a lot of like I was so surprised at all the media people that were all like, let's fucking do this. I'll come on your show.
Yeah.
Like, I had the Buttery Bros and I had Lauren Khalil and I had a bunch of other creators and MCs. I want to have some MC. I had Bella Martin, like
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was just surprised at how people were keen to just talk shop.
Yeah. Dude, it's just
I
fun. Like
think
I love talking about any opportunity that I can get to talk about what I do, especially like now that I feel like I have obviously creators never stop learning, but now I feel like I have like a lot of experience under my belt.
yeah,
I don't know, it's fun to like potentially like help someone, just starting out or just sharing my journey because I'm truly blessed with what I've been able to do and like the process and how it all came about. Like I'm just
yeah,
grateful for everyone, you know.
yeah. So I'm done with like most of the question I wanted to ask you, but I always finish with something that is completely non-content created, like related or CrossFit. I have three questions. It's more about like culture stuff. It's like, first of all, what song are you playing on repeat these days?
Ooh. um dude, oh, my song or my music genre is it's all over the place.
But like
But
these days,
these days, actually let me pull up my Spotify. Hmm.
because I think it's hard to answer like who's your favorite like
It's
artist or
so
whatever.
true, dude.
But I think talking about what you're listening to these days is like
Bro,
easier.
I've been listening. This is so emo boy hours. I've been listening to the Goo Goo Dolls. Like
Okay,
for some reason, I've been on like a '90s kick. For some
okay,
reason, like Blink 182, Goo Goo Dolls. Like what if you ever were in the gym at Mayhem? Like I was like blasting that for some reason.
Yeah.
Um, but
It's a
then,
good
dude,
vibe.
yeah, it is. But then sometimes I'll find myself like I'll find a trending audio on Instagram, and some of that stuff kind of slaps. Like so,
Yeah.
I'll just like listen to that. There's this one song. Oh, what's it called? It's like trending
Yeah.
right now. Big
Yeah.
Dog.
Yes, I was gonna say the exact same one. Hanuman kind call me big dogs.
That one is it slaps, dude. I don't know why. Like I was in the gym last night and I like had it playing like 5 times in a row.
It's funny because I'm usually like disgusted pretty quickly with all the training sounds and like how people are just like overusing it, but this one is it kind of
Yeah,
slaps, I
and
have
I'm
to
not a
say.
rap guy. Like I don't like hip hop, but it was
Yeah.
fire.
Okay, cool. Second question: what show or movie or have you seen recently that you really liked? If you
Mm,
watch TV at all.
mm. Dude, I don't watch TV, which is crazy. Actually, I
What?
I do, but I don't. If I'm watching TV, it's very like
Because
intentional.
okay, just like little thing because like your work is so cinematic and I see so many like um movie influence from what you shoot and everything and I was like this guy must like movies, right? But maybe with Mayhem and everything you just don't have time.
Yeah, I find myself like I'm very picky with what I watch. Like very like now I do have guilty pleasures. Like I'll go ham on some Love Island or like stuff like that. But like in terms of like movies, like I don't know. I think I love Christopher Nolan. Like I love like all like David Fincher, like all those kind of movies. Wes Anderson. Like I really enjoy those kind of movies. And so I think when it comes to like inspiration, like I'll take inspiration from that.
Yeah.
But recently I watch a lot of YouTube. Like
Okay.
it's kind of like I put it on and it just kind of like drowns out. I've been watching a lot of Yes Theory lately.
Okay,
Um,
I've heard of that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, more so because I really like the way like I think that the way they approach content is really unique. Like they just approach people in the street and talk to strangers, and I want to like be better about that. Like that's an element that I want to continue getting better about that. Like, hey, I want to be able to stick a camera in someone's face and like true documentarian style filmmaking. And they do some crazy like they've made like documentaries, but they also do like crazy like I traveled to the poorest country in the world or the richest or the happiest country in the world, and they make like a 30-minute video of it. It's not like in crazy cinematic, but I like find myself enjoying that.
Yeah.
And then I watched the Simone Biles documentary, which like it was pretty decent, but
Haven't
I
watched
just
it.
yeah, it's pretty decent. Honestly, it's very similar to the thing I did with Guy.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, she
I
went through
mean,
the same.
man, dude, I like not to be a kiss ass, but when I saw your documentary, it didn't feel any different or less like high level than anything I've watched on Netflix. So, you know,
Bro, thank you. I
fucking
appreciate
like
it.
I was watching it on full 4K on my YouTube on my fucking 6 inch like huge TV. Like I was watching Netflix. Like
Thank you,
you know,
bro. I appreciate it.
yeah,
Yeah,
man.
I think now
And I
I'll be able to watch some more movies, some more TV shows.
yeah,
It
dude,
makes,
get in there, get in the theaters.
yeah, for sure.
But you made me change my question to what do you watch recently because I was talking about shows and movies, but actually I'm really curious. Like some people just watch YouTube a lot, and I do that as well. So, yeah, cool, dude. Well, I don't want to take too much more of your time. We've been talking for an hour, and I think it's been great. Thank you so much for giving me some of your time. It's been a hassle to find a time together. Like I postponed, you postponed, we changed time, whatever, but we made it.
We did, we did.
And bro, I wish you nothing but the best in your journey as a freelancer. Even though you got tons of experience, if you got any questions, feel free to shoot about anything because I've been doing this for a while now. So yeah, man, wish you the best, and I truly hope that I'll still get to see you at some CrossFit events, even though you'll expand.
I think you will, bro. I really think you will. I don't plan on leaving anytime soon. So really appreciate
Cool.
you, and I'm glad we were able to chat.
Yeah, same, dude. And have a nice Sunday. It's morning for you, so have a nice Sunday, dude.
Appreciate it, bro.
Ciao. Talk
See
soon.
ya.